warrior's mindset is about conditioning the mind, body, and spirit. It takes practice, commitment, vision, goal setting, determination, sharp focus, respect, and discipline. Once you learn it, you can apply it to all aspects of your life. The warrior's mindset prepares you for the largest competition ever, the competition against self.
What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm a squirrel trying to follow you, brother. I ain't gonna say the other. It's an honor to have you here, man. You know,
It's an honor to be here. I'm glad you invited me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You know, how we not, if we got a chance to have a legend on a show, how we not going to be able, you know, reach out and get the man and say, man, hook a brother up.
That's right.
That's right. Get a legend in the house, man, to educate and inspire and motivate. I think the beautiful thing about this, man, before I hit the topic, is that for anybody that's listening to this show, I don't care how low you are. I don't care what somebody tell you about your dream, what you can't do and what you can achieve. Man, to even be in the presence of someone like you, someone like Robert, someone like Billy Blanks, all the things that happen for a little kid from the projects of Baltimore City, it's possible, man, if you hold on to that vision and that dream and don't let no haters, no perpetrators or instigators stand in your way. As a matter of fact, guys, how would you relate to that? How do you block those haters and perpetrators from stopping your dream?
You can't block what's the inevitable. What's going to happen is you're always going to have positive and negative responses, but it just depends on how you react to them. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to pay attention to people that's being negative towards you. All you got to do is just don't hang around them or don't even respond to it. I mean, if you're not dealing with positivity in your life, why even still be around it? You might as well just get away from it. You know what I mean? Like, I got zero tolerance for BS. You know what I mean? I don't have no tolerance for that crap. You know what I mean? When people start acting funny with me, including anyone that, even if it's my family.
For you guys to remember the legacy, there's something that me and Carmichael Simon, I'm going to put his name out there to make sure people know it ain't a BAMS thing. We call it the sports karate legacy. Let's remember the history of the martial arts, because we're the only sport that forget the pioneers and say, hey, it's me. I mean, tell me, what is that? What does that mean to you, Jackson? And how important is that legacy and remembering that and carrying it on to the next generation?
To me, that's everything. And the best example that I can give you is that I believe that it is probably the number one contributing factor to my success in my career. And they might surprise people when they hear that, because they're like, wait, you did something, you know, I was coached by Lauren Carney. You watch my form, you watch Lauren's form, dynamically different, nothing similar about it whatsoever. And that's especially interesting when you look at the entire legacy. Lauren was trained by Casey Nash. Lauren and Casey's style, rather similar. Casey was trained by the great Mike Bernardo, the father of modern bow staff, right? You can see a lot of similarities between Mike Bernardo's style and Casey's style, although they had their distinct differences as well. And so to see so much consistency through a lineage, and then me be this ugly duckling in a way, I guess, that's just so different, you might think that, like, well, Jackson, your career is based on separating from that. Not true whatsoever. My success came from me recognizing the trends that transpired throughout sport karate history and then trying to adapt my routines based on those trends. Part of what made me successful was I would go back and I would watch the videos from 1995, 1998. I would watch those battles between Mike Chatt and John Valera and Carmichael Simon doing extreme forms routines. And I would look at what they did against each other from tournament to tournament. Oh, if we look at Battle of Atlanta of 97, we saw Mike Chatt doing this and we saw Carmichael do this. But then they go to US Open a few months later and Mike Chatt did this and Carmichael did that, and it changed who won. And so they continue to make these adjustments. And then the next tournament, then John Valera does something new. And so what I would do is I would go back and I would study these, what I would call great triumvirates, right? In my opinion, the first great triumvirate on the hardstyle side of things was Mike Chatt, John Valera, Carmichael Simon. We fast forward, 2-3 decades, and then we look at the previous great triumvirate that come just before my generation in the weapons division which was Kalman Choka, Matt Emig, and Rudy Raynon. And then Mark Canonizato was in that mix for a while as well. So that was a very deep division. Corey Lutkus put himself in that mix. Ross Levine won a Warrior Cup during that time with weapons as well as a diamond ring too. So there was a very deep pool, but essentially it came down to Kalman, Matt, and Rudy more often than not. And so same thing, I would study, well, what did Matt do when he lost to Kalman? What adjustments did Matt make? What adjustments did Rudy make to try to beat Matt? I would look at these adjustments over time, and that's how I started to develop my strategies for when I'm competing against competitor A and competitor B. If competitor B does this and competitor A drops, I'm going to change my routine this way. If they both hit, I'm going to change my routine this way. If they both upgrade their form, then I've got to upgrade my form as well. And so oftentimes from the time that I was 14 years old, I would go into a tournament having 4 to 6 different versions of my form for one division, having all of these different variations that I had prepared so that whatever situation was thrown at me, I'd be able to respond to. But the only reason that I had the foresight to do that was because I studied the history. And I looked at the greats that came before me, and I looked at how they competed against each other and used each other's performances to up the level of their own performance. And so even though what I did was very different than what had been done before me, that in many ways was by design, because the other trend that I noticed just briefly was that the competitors who got remembered most were the competitors who we had never seen anything like them before, right? We had never seen anything like Kalman Choka's double sword form. He will now be remembered forever. We had never seen somebody do chucks the way that Matt Emig did chucks. He will now be remembered forever. We had never seen someone do a backflip in an extreme form. Now Mike Chat will be remembered forever. We had never seen somebody do 2 spins in the air and then throw a hook kick. Now Carmichael Simon will be remembered forever. The people who did something that we had never seen before are always the people that got remembered. And that's where I kind of made my decision to make that escape from the norm, take a risk, do something different. And I was very fortunate and blessed that it worked out.
Yeah, so again, what Jackson's saying, but with me, I think it's a little bit different, right? Because history repeats itself. And back in the day, there used to be something called the War. And it was between Mark Canonizato, Sammy Vasquez, and Matt Emig, because that division was super tight. It was anyone's game, and sport martial arts used to actually call it the War. It was like a 2-part series or 3-part series. I don't know. You could still probably find it on YouTube somewhere. But it was like the hypest thing. I mean, I wasn't competing. I don't think I was competing at this time. This might have been just before I started competing. But you would see crowds gather around the ring, and they would do one move, they go, oh, and they would kind of have like one side, if you're on team Matt, you'd be on one side of the ring, and if you were on team Mark, you'd be on the other side of the ring, and it was kind of like people would come together and they would be drawn to this crowd and this hype, just everything going on with it. And like I said, I believe it was definitely between Sammy and Matt. I want to say it was between Sammy, Mark, and Matt, all 3 of them. But, like I said, history kind of repeats itself, because I find, once I start competing and I get better, there's almost this like second generation war between, I would say the 2 best female competitors in the NASCA circuit, not trying to, be cocky or anything, but I would like to claim myself as one of the top female martial arts in the NASCA circuit, along with my teammate, Mackenzie Emery. And, if the 2 of us, we definitely like to go at it in the ring. We're always, pushing each other. And honestly, I would consider myself to be the best because of her, because she forced me, to train as hard as I can. If I didn't have that level of competition, maybe I wouldn't be as good as I am today. So, along with that kind of war type vibe, going in, and, I enjoy it. I honestly think, like I said, it may be better. The crowds would come. It kind of like was cool to see that, happen again for myself. And, we've been competing against each other since 2007, I believe. So a really long time. And, like we kind of, I started competing before, but we kind of, have been on this journey for a really long time together, spent time as teammates on Team Pro Rank, and now we spend time as teammates on Team Paul Mitchell. So it's, really cool to get to this point. But like I said, it was also really cool to kind of like, get in that zone, get in that war type of like, like, I'm gonna beat you, like I'm gonna be the best today, this is what I got. And then again, like kind of what Jackson was saying, like, studying, videos, not necessarily studying like her videos, because honestly, I honestly never did that, but just studying old videos of myself, old videos of Matt, and what I could bring to the table and bring into my forms, because this is what I'm bringing behind me. You're gonna bring influence from Rudy, but I'm gonna bring influence from Matt and Daniel. So kind of along like the same lines, but in a sense like different and catered towards myself. And I think that's a big thing that kids nowadays are not doing. I don't think that they're looking at old school videos and like are really diving into what these old competitors were doing and what made them different and what they're going to do the next tournament. I think people are just seeing what's the cool trend nowadays, and they're kind of copying it, which is like the problem that kind of Jackson and I like talked about. Like you got to dig deeper than that. You got to find your roots and try to come up with something that would be cool nowadays, but at the same time, like taking that old school style, that old school innovation and making it your own. So that would be my advice to the up and coming generation. Like, again, draw influence from, who's the up and coming now, but also dig deeper than that. See where they came from, watch their videos, watch what they did, and then try to re-innovate that cycle of coming up with stuff for yourself. And that's how you're going to stand out.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. It's funny that you say that, because I think to be fortunate to compete with Kevin Thompson, and we sit there and get expression of some connection to the human soul. How important is that, man?
Well, that's the most important. I think what you're talking about is flow. When you get things flowing, I've experienced that flow a number of times, and you can have it in anything. You can have it playing a sport, playing music. You can even have it when you're speaking or writing. When I'm writing and I'm in the zone, so to speak, then that
Yes.
flow is going. And that's all about chi. I agree with you. And I think our Western society is too much focused on the exterior and not focused enough on the interior.
1 out of 100. That's what the guy told me. He said only 1 out of 100 statistics say it's going to make it. But we got to change that. You said 2020. How does 2020 relate to the Warriors mindset? And what is the call to action to other people to get up and go back and empower these youth?
Well, this is what I'm saying. When you say 2020, right? I was born with 2020 vision. That's perfect vision.
Yes,
God
sir.
gave everybody perfect vision, right? So I said, the year 2020 is God's perfect vision for men, children, women. That's God's perfect vision for men, children, women. That doesn't mean that when things come up in your eyesight, they're not all going to be good. They're going to be detours. They're going to be places that you're going to see things happen. But you got to have that 2020 vision focus to be able to go, that ain't right. That ain't right. Even with COVID, when COVID came up, I shut down I closed my studio, right? I closed my studio. There was a purpose for me closing my studio. I got up every morning, came inside this living room right now. We took our furniture out of here. This is like a workout room now, right? I get up. And my students see when I come on and do my Zoom classes, I say, okay, guys, we're in the living room with Billy Blanks and the family. My wife and my daughter, we get up and we do a class for all the public people. And, it showed people that, he's right. We inside of our house. How come we don't make our public house be a place of peace, joy, strength, everything that God said it should be in your household? Look, I can get a chance to do that here. Yeah, I don't have my studio anymore, but that's okay. That's something that maybe I was not supposed to be able to have, right? Because when I had it, all I could do was teach people in California. But now I got 46 countries that come on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I'm just a Junior's son. That's all I am. So I was fortunate enough to have a great father, and I'm just riding his coattails. So I'm a little more behind the scenes kind of person. So my dad loved being in the front and leading the charge. I like doing it, quietly. So, my fame was the commercial, and that was it.
So what is it like being a part of such a legacy? What was it like as a kid, because Master Reed exemplifies that whole warrior spirit. What was it like to be amongst that sort of warrior's mindset?
Yeah, it's because he's always, like your father is always just your father. So, you don't really see, your dad in the same light that other people who see him as the Grand Master. So you wake up every morning, you see him in his office. As a kid, I remember he was always in his office doing something. He was never like we were just talking about you and I taking naps, you know, you rarely see him taking a nap. You know, he would be up at 6 a.m, working out, then he'd go straight to his office. He'd be on the phone, you know, on his computer. So that had a lot to do with, you know, kind of the habits that I developed, you know, working as well.
I'm a firm believer. 6 degrees of separation. I'm a firm belief that we're intended to meet. And it was that time it presented itself was an opportunity for you and I to have a connection. It wasn't on anything else but other than about our kids and helping our kids get through. And just having a conversation with someone and expressing to them exactly where I stand in reference to our children and how we're trying to help our children get to the next level. Then I bump into a young man, you know, that has a dojo and that's been around for a very long time and is proven. All you have to do is do the research. So when we met, for me, the energy was right there, you know, and the opportunity to present yourself, and how ironic, we live in the same little city, you know, but we meet somewhere in Baltimore. You know, now that says something totally for itself. And just have an opportunity to visit you a couple times and just to see the experience while walking into your dojo, and when you are saying your black belt creed and how all your students stop and respond to it. For me, that was transformational, because that was something I felt in the soul. When you see one vision, one mind, that's a whole different level for me. And so I'm honored to be your friend. Thank you.
So your perfect internet, so you can have a perfect interview with both Master Tyrone and Master Bullock. So that's side story apart. But yeah, there is a real fatalistic reason why we're together. And we are together for a reason, because this world is going down a dark, dark spiral, to be honest with you, irrespective of, you know, beyond just the COVID. COVID is just it exacerbate. In a way, I don't want to make light of it, because obviously a lot of people lost their lives, so it is not light work. But there is a silver lining to every cloud. So the silver lining of every cloud is COVID has made humanity sit up and take notice. Because the way I describe it, humanity's been walking blindfolded in a daze towards a precipice that doesn't know it. So as deadly as COVID has been, it has made humanity take up and take notice that, you know what, we need to make changes. Where we're going is not ideally the path of goodness. You know, so collectively, I mean, you've been doing this for many, many years now. So I started this collective only in 2015. So it's a relative new, but despite that relative newness, we are a global alliance now. We have a lot of influential people around the world. And it's that organization, along with yours, along with Master Tyrone, that we are all now like giant jigsaw puzzle that is coming together, and we're creating a divine picture that we will deliver to the world. So it's that beacon of light, is that beacon of hope. Okay, so in this time of despair, we have to show the path, that there is a righteous path, that there is a divine path, that there is a path for the future, a good future, a better future. Okay, and that light we will shine in all the darkest corners, in the corners of great poverty, of great suffering. Those are the corners of darkness that we will go to, where others will run away from it, others will shield away from it. I know with people like yourself, we will not do that, because we know that's where we need to go. That is where we need to bring the light, and that's where we need to bring humanity out of that darkness into light. And that is what our collective is here to do. And a little bit later, I'll obviously talk about specific programs that we will be involved in, that I want your organization to be involved in with us. To you know, money still talks, so we still need to generate the capital. So a lot of the entities that we incorporate is in the field of art, business, and charity. So we have a holistic model that integrates all three. Okay, so we're not just making wealth for wealth's sake. We are making wealth so that we can apply it to the divine good project, like your Point M&A project, like the OHA educational platform, which through Andrew Wen, is our goal to raise $100 million to buy 1 million solar panel tablets, which will have educational curriculum for mathematics, for languages, and most importantly for peace, that we will distribute freely to the rest of the world to show them that there is hope, that there is greatness and goodness to come. Okay, but I'll go into a bit more detail hopefully down the line, but that is what our collective are involved in, and I'm so honored to have now Master Tyrone for his Dragon Entertainment bring me on board, and now Master Johnson to bring on board his Point MMA organization as well. So it's a blessing for me. Thank you.
Tyrone, I mean, as we go on with that same question, I mean, your heart, your spirit, I don't think I have ever seen you with an evil face or a sense of arrogance whenever we'd been to events, and to know what you had to go through to get to that higher level. That's what brought tears to my heart, and it still touches my heart when I say it back to you. But for a man to just call you after more than 1, 2, or 3 years and just say, let's come together, and for you to immediately switch that call and hook me and you and Dr. Yang up with no hidden agenda, with no fear or doubt. I think one of the problems with the world is that everybody either got a hidden agenda, they're trying to manipulate someone, is always me, me, me. But I feel like I'm honored, because that's not why I call. What makes your heart so giving and so caring about that collective collaboration, and why?
That's a good question. Like, I was raised with good values. You know, had that, you know, opportunity to be raised with great people and surrounded by great people. But my heart always went out to people that was unfortunate, you know, to have the same experience or to know where their next meal will come from. So I've made many, many accomplishments through martial arts and business, but my main accomplishment was helping children in single family homes, you know, get through tough times.
We got teachers, and they're not as hard because everybody wins today.
Yes.
And talk to me about that.
No, listen. You know, I'm definitely of the generation that not everybody deserves a trophy.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, see, the thing that's happened now is everybody is afraid that somebody's going to be shamed. Okay, if they don't get a trophy, they're going to be shamed. And what people don't realize, and I talk about this in my book, there's 2 types of shame. There's toxic shame, which is humiliating. You know, nobody wants to be shamed with toxic shame. But there's shame that comes from knowing you didn't do your best, or you know, you didn't give it your all, and that shame motivates and drives you and fuels you to do better. And you know, by telling kids that everybody's a winner and we're afraid to get your knee scuffed, you know, unfortunately we're not helping the younger generation. Let me put it that way. Okay? Because you get out in life and life can be difficult, and you got to learn that I don't care who you are, man. Everyone gets their ass kicked. You may not get it kicked physically, but life will kick your ass. And
time doing Point MMA was my first fight, and it was against a real good kid, and he had a lot of experience, which I wasn't expecting. And going into your first fight, especially Point MMA, it's nerve-wracking. And I didn't have much experience at the time. My dad just signed me up for a bunch of the tournaments that they had, or that you had, and I went in there, and the first fight is usually the fight that determines if you want to fight or if you just do it for like, you know, self-defense or something. And when I went in there, I didn't win, but I came out feeling like, you know, I wanted to do more, and I went in to prove myself that I'm better than what that performance was. And so I started training more and more, and I went to more events for Point MMA, and I just got better and better, and I fell in love with fighting.
And now you're world champion. I mean, Daddy,
Yeah.
I mean, you saying that, now he's a world champion. I mean, I believe in training. I believe in taking it to the max. I know people call, and would you agree, Dad? Don't we make it safe for you when you're there? I'm right there in the middle of the ring when people are getting a little heated. I mean, you describe as a parent, how safe and how challenging and competitive is Point MMA for the youth?
I mean, safe? I mean, none of this stuff is safe. You definitely are right there, and which you don't know how much I appreciate having your presence as a referee and the way you handle the situation, read the kids, and make sure that it is a safe environment. I think that has a lot to do with you making it safe, but without I don't think that's safe.
You're talking about a mindset. I mean, that's what you're talking about, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and it's not just the mindset. I feel my personal opinion is this: anybody can have a mind. Anything can come out the mouth. But the mindset, that's just being able to see the target. Okay. I still got to put work behind.
Took your life experiences and learned how to express it based upon your hustle, your grind, your need, your level of survival. Talk to me. I don't think people even understand what I just said. Help them understand what I just said, brother. I think that went over their head,
Yeah, it's crazy because, look, one thing that was guaranteed, right? And again, this is because I was influenced by hip hop, right? In hip hop, we can't be biters.
Yeah.
You can't be a biter.
Can you say that one more time?
In hip hop, you cannot be a biter. If you're a biter, you're labeled as freaking a facsimile, a Xerox, a piece of crap that had no authenticity. Now, mind you, when you give credit to those who you look up to, man, they love that. You got to give props where they do.
Mr. Fred, that's Mr. Isaac. He done worked with Undisputed, Scott Atkins. He worked on the TV show WMAC Masters Power Rangers. He's probably one of the greatest action film directors and writers around right now. And of course, we know who you are.
That's good to know. Those things are good to know.
You inspired us.
Right?
Fred, you inspired us. I mean, you don't know how many times I went to see 3 The Hard Ways,
I do know. That was my motivation. That was my motivation to inspire people to see the kind of characters that we could bring out to the screen that weren't happening before.
And something, it's like it inspired all the world because it's like, did you know, I mean, you guys were shooting it in the States, that it will influence a kid in Tel Aviv, Israel, and I'm sure it will influence somebody in Pakistan or somebody in Finland, I don't know if you're aware of it.
I'm totally aware of it. My purpose was to be international from the beginning, not just to be domestic, but to be international.
See everybody quitting. And the tragic thing, and I asked you, I mean, what was that like just to see when so many moms and dads are trying to do their very best to put food on the table, but yet they sitting around and they see that this is like a lost cause. As hard as I work to get up, the system has been designed to keep me down.
Right.
I mean,
but it was by design. It was really by design. Those of us who grew up, struggling. My parents, they worked hard. They worked hard and they struggled. I had a dad who busted his, he busted his butt every single day, had 5-6 jobs, whatever he needed to do. And there's a correlation to that. I think, when people got into it, And you hear the stories in crack when, you know, some of the young guys, they were kids. I mean, they were, you know, really young when they started dealing. That was a way for them to support their families. Right. You know, the economic policies of that time, you know, during the Reagan era, and if, you know, everyone remembers the trickle-down economics, nothing trickled down. And everything was pulled out from under them. So all the safety nets that were in place for people who, you know, the people confronted your struggle, and then there was a safety net to catch them, that was pulled out.
The warrior's mindset is about conditioning the mind, body, and spirit. It takes practice, commitment, vision, goal setting, determination, sharp focus, respect, and discipline. Once you learn it, you can apply it to all aspects of your life. The warrior's mindset prepares you for the largest competition ever, the competition against self.